Hey everyone, in this video we'll talk about how to solve quadratic equations by factoring them. So let's start with an example of a quadratic equation that we're going to solve. So let's say we have x squared equals negative 7x minus 6. Okay, so we have this quadratic equation and we know it's quadratic because the highest exponent right here is 2. We have an x squared in there. And we also have an x term in there next to the first power. And we also have a constant. So the goal with solving quadratic equations, just like solving any equation, it's to solve for x, or whatever the variable is. In this case, our variable is x. So we want to solve for x. We want to figure out what x is. How do we do that? So what we're going to do when solving any quadratic equation, you always want to get it into this format. You want to get it into ax squared plus bx plus c form. C equals 0. You want to get the equation into this form right here, and that makes this easier to solve. So let's go ahead and get this equation in this form. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and move this down here. Let's move these back up. Okay, so what do we do to get this equation in this form? Well, let's move everything to the right of this equal sign to the left of this equal sign. And how are we going to do that? For this negative 7x, we'll just add 7x to both sides. So plus 7x and plus 7x. Those will cancel. And on the left side, we have x squared plus 7x equals, and we have negative 6 remaining on the right side. And now we will move the negative 6 to the left side. So let's go ahead and add 6 to both sides. And we are left, on the left side, we have x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. There we go. So now we have the right side of this equation equaling 0, which is just what we want to get it into this form. And if we take a look, what are our three terms? What is our ax squared? What is our bx? And what is our c? So let's move this down here to make it easier to see. So our ax squared is right here. X squared, and then you don't see a number in front of it. So if there's no number in front of the term, it's just a 1 there, 1 times x squared. And then right here, what is our bx? So our b is 7, and our x is right there, so 7x is our bx. And what is our c? Our constant, so our c is 6. And there we go, we have this equation in ax squared plus bx plus c form. So let's go ahead and just erase this. Because now that we have it in this form, let's go ahead and factor this. We know how to factor these types of trinomials right here. So all we have to do to factor it is, let's set up 2 sets of parentheses. We'll do an x plus in each of them. And remember, when factoring these types of trinomials, when factoring these quadratics, we are looking for 2 numbers, m and n. And we are looking for these 2 numbers where if you multiply them, m times n will give you the c term. And what did we say our c term was? That's our 6. And so m times n will give you 6. And then m plus n, so if you add these 2 numbers, it will give you the b term, which is 7. Okay, so to figure this out, let's take a look at 6, our c term. So what is 6 equal? What are some numbers we can multiply? Well, 6 can be written as 6 times 1. It can also be 3 times 2. Okay, let's try these numbers. So let's try 6 plus 1. And let me actually make this a different color. Let's try 6 plus 1. Let's add these numbers, 6 and 1. And let's add these numbers, 3 plus 2. So what's 6 plus 1? That is 7. And 3 plus 2 is 5. And 7 is what we are looking for, because we want two numbers, when we add them together, we get 7. So 6 and 1 seem to be our numbers, our m and n. So 6 can be our m, and our n can be 1. So 6 and 1 can be our m and n. Let's go ahead and replace them in each of these. So x plus 6 for m times x plus 1 for m. And all of that equals 0. Good. So we factored this trinomial. We factored x squared plus 7x plus 6 into these two factors, these two binomials, x plus 6 times x plus 1, and we have it equaling 0. So now how do we solve for x? What's the next step? We have to recognize something important right here. We are multiplying two terms. We are multiplying this green that I have underlined times this blue that I have underlined. And when you multiply them, it gives you 0. And that's very important. It gives you 0 when you multiply them. So remember, 0 times any number, so any number, will give you 0. So remember that, 0 times any number will give you 0. So we're multiplying those two parentheses up there. We're multiplying these two parentheses, x plus 6 and x plus 1. And it's giving us 0. That means one of these has to be 0. Either of these has to be 0. So if x plus 6 was 0, that times x plus 1, it would give us 0. And if x plus 1 was 0, that times x plus 6 would also give us 0, since 0 times anything is 0. So what we can do from here, the next step, now that we know that, we can break this up into two equations. So x plus 6, we'll take this first one, x plus 6 equals 0. And we'll take this next one, x plus 1 equals 0. So now we have two equations, both of which we can solve for x. And it's very simple. So to isolate the x on this left one, we'll subtract 6. And we're left with x equals negative 6. And same thing here, x plus 1 equals 0, so we'll subtract 1 on both sides. And we are left with x equals negative 1. And look at this. We have two solutions, x equals negative 6 and x equals negative 1. And a lot of quadratic equations, not all of them, but most of them have two solutions. You will get two solutions for x instead of 1. And these are the two solutions, x equals negative 6 and x equals negative 1. And that is how we solve this quadratic equation that we started with. And that is how we do it by factoring. And one important thing, keep in mind, in order to factor this, in order to get from this step to this step, our a term right here, so our a term, which is 1, it must be 1. A must equal 1 to go from this step to factoring to this step. So in order to factor this quadratic, our a must equal 1. If our a is not equal to 1, then that is something that I will teach you in the next video how to do. We will solve those types of quadratic equations in the next video. But that is how you solve this type of quadratic equation where our a term equals 1. I hope this video helps, and please let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Thank you for watching.